Today, I have a wonderful guest in my podcast. His name is Paul Bryan Miller, and he is the founder of the coaching program Uncivilized Rebirth. Now, I'm very happy that you are here, and I want to start right away with my first question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to sum up your life story in a nutshell, you have been to Iraq, you have been in extremely high stress combat situations, and when you came home and the uniform came off, you faced things like CPTSD, anger issues, a divorce, you faced addiction problems, identity loss, you name it. And I would really like to know, how on earth are you still standing?
Had a spiritual awakening.
Wonderful. That is exactly what I want to go into. Now, I have had something similar to that as well. I call it the ego death because my old ego died completely, and then there was basically a clean slate. And with this clean slate, I continued. So, how was that for you? How did it feel for you? At what point in your life did it come about? Can you tell me a little more about it?
So in 2022 or 2021, I'd stepped away from religion. I was tired of it. I'd been betrayed by so many people. Praying didn't work. And these were people within religion. And I told the creator, I was like, I don't believe in you. I don't believe there's a God. I don't believe in Jesus. But I believe there's something out there that's all powerful or that has created everything. I truly believe that. And I was like, show yourself to me. And so that like opened the door because in the fall of 2022, I started having these supernatural experiences. And the best way to describe it is my soul was brought to the surface. I was shown what my ego was. I was shown what my life mission was. I was awakened to my past lives where I actually had these memories and I experienced some of my primary past lives. And that took about 3 months. I didn't go to an ibogaine treatment. I wasn't going to do DMT. This was all on my own. There was no community like, come on, we're gonna awaken you. Like this was like the creator picking me and like, all right, you asked for it. And for 3 months, it was just supernatural event after event. For like 2 weeks, you were talking about the ego death. There was about a 2 week period where I had no idea who I was. I didn't have an identity, but I had to experience that to realize, like, oh, I am not an identity. But I felt so naked and vulnerable. I was just like, I don't know who I am. But that was like a great place to start.
Yes, exactly. I also experienced it as a form of freedom because no matter what somebody paints me, somebody can paint me the villain, somebody can paint me the hero, somebody can paint me the social media content creator, I don't know what. It doesn't really matter because I don't have to, step into a role that someone from the outside gave me because I can be everything and nothing at the same time, and that's perfectly fine. So that is why I experienced it as a relief, so to say. Now, you were talking about the supernatural experiences. I had them as well. My very first one was in 2018, where I first got a glimpse of like, wow, I can do actually much more than I thought I can do. And so I would like to know, how was that for you when you realized, okay, that is not something inside the normal terms, that is literally something paranormal.
When you experience something like that, you automatically know that this is nothing that I've experienced in my entire life. This is totally outside the norm. And when you experience that, you want to go tell people, but I had to realize like people thought I was crazy and dumb. And so I started experiencing these waves of energy inside of me. Just they would literally almost knock me over as just pure raw energy just billowing inside of me. Um, I guess some people call it Kundalini awakening or the chi energy or chi or whatever it is, whatever name people give it, I felt it. And I started being able to people talk about being energy healers or Reiki energy healing and all that. Well, mine was basically activated for my ability. And people give these words to these human abilities, but I was experiencing it. I had to start searching. I was like, what is going on? And so I would see animals in nature that I'd never seen before. I saw a wolf, never seen a wolf in my life, but I was driving along and a wolf runs out to the side of the road, looks around and darts across. It was a wolf. I started seeing crows and hawks start flying over me even more. And it wasn't random occurrences because it still happens. They're like birds of prey. And when I'm driving, they fly right over me. And it's happened hundreds of times in the past 4 years. But then I would have experiences internally where your mind's eye, because the third eye awakening, which is very real, you can see energy. You can see people's intentions. You can experience a whole nother dimension. And so I have vision that all these other people can't see around me. And so I basically had to process that on my own. It's taken years to just figure out, like, okay, how do I incorporate myself into society now that I have all these gifts activated, but in a manner that's acceptable? That's been a very interesting journey in itself.
Yes, I can imagine. Now, you mentioned the wolf and the crow and the birds of prey and such. That sounds very much like Native American symbolism to me. Did you have a past life where you have been a Native American?
Yes. Part of my awakening, I was shown how I healed all of my generational traumas going back a millennia. And shortly after, I had many visions, and shortly after that vision, I was almost in a trance. And there was all these Native Americans around me, like, and they were chanting and singing a song, and they were celebrating me. And I'm getting goosebumps right now. They were celebrating me, and the bloodline's still here because the line got washed down, but I have blood from them. And so it was just a strong vision. And then every now and then in the spiritual realm, I see this massive circle of Native Americans around me just dancing, cheering me on. And I get, I don't know if you can see the goosebumps, but that's not something I can openly share with people. But my lineage is cheering me on in this lifetime. So yes, I believe that's really close to the Native American roots of why that's going on as well.
Yes, and what the picture that comes to my mind when I hear you talking about this is I don't know if you have seen the Stephen King movie, the new one of It, where they find this Native American little box and they realize, okay, there is this curse in our town where every certain amount of time this monster is coming to collect some little kids, and we can actually break this curse by doing something, a ritual together. So that is the imagery that came to my mind, and that was also handed down from a Native American family. So what I was asking before about the proof, I will tell you from my perspective. When I had my first psychic experience in 2018, I was sitting in a room in a huge hall with 4,000 other people, and I was watching a person on stage who is psychic herself, and she's quite a big figure in Germany. She's called Bahar Yilmaz, and I went there because I wanted to see what she can do, how her energy is affecting the audience. And she gave everybody in the audience a little piece of cloth which we can put around our head so that our eyes are covered. And in the moment they gave me this piece of cloth, it was a black one. I immediately saw in front of my mind's eye, I saw an old lady with a with like a hijab, on her head, and she was cutting this with a scissors. And I thought that is very, very weird for me to see in my mind's eye, because I have no memory about anyone like this. And secondly, why would anyone do that? If you produce 4,000 pieces of cloth for a huge audience, then you would normally do that mechanically. You wouldn't do that by hand with scissors. So it didn't make any sense to me. And then there was a little break of the show. And when she came back on stage, she told us a story. She said, look, all of you got bands now to cover your eyes. And these bands are very close to my heart, because my grandmother in Turkey and all of her friends were cutting these by hand with scissors. So I actually, in the moment when I touched it, I actually saw how it was made. And that was my personal kind of proof that this was not some kind of fantasy I made up, but it was actually a psychic vision. Now, did you have anything like this where you say, okay, that was definitive proof for me that it is so, where I got a psychic vision and then it became reality, or I had a dream and then it became reality, anything like that?
Yes, I had two instances like that. And first off, thanks for sharing that. Those things are amazing because it's like the divine revealing to us, being like, hey, listen, I'm about to give you a peek behind the curtain and I'm going to show you this is real. And a lot of people don't believe us when we share those stories. But from my experiences, I can tell that you're being very honest and sincere, and that's incredible. And I think those experiences for us are amazing when they happened. Um, so I had two experiences, and I called it my intuition was absolutely pure and turned on, and I want to call it psychic. I don't know. But I would just start knowing things, and I would start researching it, and this little voice inside of me would show me like, "Hey, listen," um, and it was about my family. It was about my older brother. And it's like, look up the guy that your mom dated before she married your dad. And this was like I was at it. I was running a business. I was trying to remodel a house. I was in college, and my mind wasn't thinking about this at all. So I was sitting there at work, and I was like, okay. So I started looking him up, and lo and behold, I discovered that this dude has a son also, but he and my older brother look exactly alike. And it turns out my older brother's a half brother. And so my intuition would lead me on these little like rabbit trails. Is like, how else could I have known this? And I will be given conversations by other people. Like the divine be like, here's what's happening. Here's what they are saying. Because if I told you my whole story, where I'm at in America, your jaw would drop. So I had to start trusting that. And there was a shaman who was a retired Green Beret, and he had his spiritual awakening. And he was we were talking about intuition and psychic gifts and abilities. And for a long time, I completely ignored it. I'd be like, oh, it's my imagination making it up. And then I realized, like, no, I don't need to doubt that. And so I would confirm these things. I would follow my intuition, and lo and behold, these things would be revealed to me. And even still talking about it, it's like part of my old, I guess, programming is like, don't say that. You can't talk about that. But the human condition is far more wild than anybody has any clue about.
One of the biggest problems on this planet is that people, number one, they do not know, they are not educated on this. Number two, there is this threshold that they have to go past, where all of the shaming comes in if you talk about things like this, and all of the negative consequences that society gives you, like pointing the finger at you and saying you are crazy and stuff like that. But when you are above that, the next stage is that many people they do believe in something. They say, okay, I'm Christian, I believe in God or whatever, but then they don't do any sort of spiritual hygiene. Nothing. They don't protect their house. They don't protect their own aura. They don't pray every day. They don't do nothing. Maybe they go to church every Sunday, but that's not it. If you are understanding that you live in a reality that is energy first and matter second, then you need to do this every single day, just like cleaning your teeth, because you know that if you don't clean your teeth every day, the teeth will rot and fall out. So you have to do this every single day, because otherwise your aura is going to be with little holes like a sieve, and then all of these negative entities have something to grab into, just like in a bowling ball. You know, you have these little holes in a bowling ball and then you can grab it. So that's exactly what these entities can do to get into your aura and to stay stuck. And I think if people only knew, they would do much more, like, you know, saging their aura with Palo Santo or whatever. And so what is your take on that? What is your take on spiritual protection?
Oh man, this is a great topic. So during my awakening, I started learning that I had an energy body and that there is energy everywhere as I was being awoken to energy. And energy bundles go around and they have intentions put in them. And they can literally settle into your energy body and hang in there for a while. And you can prevent that or you have to clean it out. And so I started saging. I used Palo Santo. I started wearing a crystal. It's a black crystal. I don't know the name of it, but it's to protect my energy.
Like tourmaline, maybe.
Most likely. I don't have to know the name for it to work. And and then through trauma, entities attached to our root chakra. And so I started wearing magnets below on at the base of my spine because magnets have a presence in the spiritual realm, which is very protective. Like energies can't enter it, especially when they're like put together and they make a more powerful field. And I started learning about things like crushed red pepper, not just salt, but it's Celtic salt, and then cinnamon on the thresholds. So what I did was just get a jar and I layered these elements in the jar. So each one of them has their own signature in the spiritual realm, but when they're stacked, they overlap and they make like an impenetrable field in the spiritual realm. And I would carry that on me because I live in an area where there's lots of witchcraft, and I've had lots of witchcraft done to me. And so in America, there's a huge resurgence in witchcraft here. And then for a very long time, it was hidden, the work people did. So I started learning to protect my body, protect my home, and I'd put these little jars in my windows to protect it. I put a black crystal by my mirror. I have one mirror in my house now because that's a portal. And so I keep a protection over that. And then with religion, they have hijacked spirituality. They talk about in church, put on the armor of God, the breastplate, the shield, and the helmet. They don't talk about the back whatsoever because there's lots of witchcraft in religion. And entities are there, your chakras in the back and your root chakra is left wide open to drain on. And so energetic tethers are put inside of people through words, and then these entities are able to attach onto them and drain them. So spiritual protection is not taught in religion. Religion is a mask for dark craft work. That's what I've learned. And people, I don't care if anybody believes me or not, but you have many pastors in churches that are Freemasons. You have covens in churches, and they are doing their craft work and in complete secrecy because they have this veil of religion protecting them.
So several things have come up. Number one, I always think in movie scenes because that's a very good connection for me to understand things. So when you were talking about stacking the energies of different kinds of salt and different kinds of other things, that reminded me very much of a scene in The Last Witch Hunter with Vin Diesel, where he sees the witch, and she's actually a good witch in that movie. And he tells her, look, the weather outside is almost bringing the plane in which we sit down because there is a thunderstorm and everything going on and the plane is shaking because you have in your pocket several different crystals which do not align very well. So you are the one creating that bad weather out there, and she didn't even know. So that is one of the scenes that I was reminded of when you were talking. I personally, I use Yeshua, but I use Yeshua in a form that is very different from the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church taught us that he died on the cross, etc. I believe in a Yeshua that was alive a few thousand years ago, and he was basically like Siddhartha. He traveled the world, he tried to gain as much spiritual knowledge as he could, and then in the end, he was an awakened soul. And he tried to tell people, look, God is inside of you. I am that I am, is what he said. So he didn't want to create a religion at all. Not at all. He just wanted to tell people, look, I'm pointing you towards the way of awakening. That's all I'm doing. Yeah. So they did hijack Yeshua and made him that Jesus Christ, the Christ that died on the cross. Yeah. They did hijack him, but I think he did exist, and I think he was a spiritually awakened person that tried to help others in the best way he could. Yeah. So basically, I do use his name to protect myself. I do also not only call upon my ancestors, but also on Yeshua to protect me, because I think the Christ consciousness itself is something very positive, even though it was hijacked. It's a little bit like the swastika symbol actually meaning luck and something beautiful, just that it was hijacked by A.H. And ruined basically for the rest of humanity. But still, the symbol itself is neutral. It's not the symbol's fault that it is either used for the good or the bad. Okay. So that is why, basically, for me, the name Yeshua or Jesus Christ is okay, and I can use it without being afraid of it or something. But yes, definitely, Masons are everywhere. They are not only in the churches; they are everywhere. They are in the entire government in every country. They are everywhere. And about the back. You said protecting the back is much harder than protecting the front. How do you personally do that?
Two things. One about the Freemasons, their craft work no longer works because we just entered the age of Aquarius. The energies in the universe shifted. And so the energies they use for their craft work, let's say, is like this frequency. And the frequency we are in now is like this. And they're doing this and this, and it just doesn't work. Because words can hide a person's energy and true intentions. And that's what they're doing. They're creating they're spell casting with their words. They're creating images in people's minds to get what they want through their wordcraft, though now their intentions are blatant. People are not, because of the shift in energies, people are ignoring their words and realizing they can see past that. Not everyone, but lots of people. So they're in chaos now. Their their numbers are dwindling because they are a collapsing element in society that's ruled and controlled society, because it goes even deeper, like to the Vatican, to the witch trials, to learning about witchcraft, to covering it up, to applying it with their own craft, and then using it to control large amounts of people. But the creator is tired of that, and that's why we are waking up now, because it's like you had the 60s in America where you had all the hippies waking up, like, we're tired of the systems, man. And then America locked down and they shut that down hard. But not this time. The creator or the divine is just like, nope, I am done with this. These humans are coming up to their consciousness and awareness is being brought up to a level that's unheard of. Because where I'm at, is what some Tibetan monks spent 30 years in a cave doing. It happened like just spontaneous for me. So what I did for protecting my back was wearing magnets, neodymium magnets on my pants. And then the jar of elements I would keep in a left pocket and a right pocket. But then once the attacks lessened, and I was able to handle it on my own, basically, I stopped carrying nearly as much of that. It was like I felt like a baby that was woken up in a reality that was insane. And I was like, okay, you need to use these training wheels. But then it was time for the training wheels to come off. And be like, I should be able to navigate this reality. If I'm truly as powerful as I'm told I am, then I should be able to navigate without these elements or at a minimum. So that's where I'm at now. It's like I only wear crystal and I carry a jar of sage. This is a great conversation.
You were talking about your claircognizance. Yeah. Do you have any other of the typical clairs? Like I have claircognizance, experienced that myself. Yeah. I have also experienced clairsentience, so that I can feel when something's off. You know, I enter a room and immediately I go like, "Ooh, something very ugly happened here. I have to go out."
Yes.
So this kind of. Do you have any of the others, like clairaudience or something like that?
I don't know the definition of those words because I've never really researched it, but I can feel the presence, the energetic signatures. Like walking in somewhere, I will feel just a nasty, filthy energy and I'll have to leave. Or I know I have to start searching for something because my intuition will kick on and I'm like, oh, it's time to start looking. And I will just start looking and finding. Um, it's almost like I'm a I'm a spiritual spy. It's like I was kept hidden and then woken up. And like my job is to go around and find where these dark entities have been or dark activities have taken place and clear that energy. So yeah, I can feel it and I can sense it completely. And it's very isolating.
Yes,
I'll
yes.
say that.
But I honestly have to say, I am very thankful for the isolation because that's a lot to carry. If you go into a room with 4,000 people inside, you will be overwhelmed with quite a lot of things that are there, entities that are attached to them. So you don't have 4,000 people, you have 4,000 plus something. So when you said spiritual spy, that is exactly what I experienced for myself. So that somehow they always find me. You know, these very dark people, they always find me. They come like a moth to the light. And you know, at first it was like I don't want you around me, but then I started to realize, okay, maybe that's my job. So basically it went into the direction of being an exorcist because all of these entities that are attached to someone else become very agitated and angry as soon as this person is in my presence. You know, just my presence alone is enough. That me breathing and standing there is absolutely enough to make them go absolutely wild. So these people that have these entities attached, they get extremely angry. They throw things around and stuff, and they become very agitated. They start attacking me physically. They start spitting, and they also, I sometimes I heard the demon speak out of the person in a very, very weird voice that is actually not the person's voice, you know. So these beings, they have no other choice than to come out in my presence. And while this is super scary and sometimes even disgusting, I believe that there is a sense behind it, and God has basically given you that ability because you also have the ability to not only show that person who is affected, look, there is something about you that is unhealed, that needs to be cleared, but also you have the ability to clear it out. Now, how exactly do you have an example of how you did that once, or how you basically were working as an exorcist for either for a house or for a person or something like that?
Man, there's several instances there. I could talk about this for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes about what happened. Basically, I consider myself a spiritual assassin, and my job is to go in and just destroy these massive entities attached to these people and disconnect it from them. And so like I'm literally, I wouldn't call it astral projecting, but I am like half in the spiritual, half in my physical when I'm around a group of people and I'm just searching and like I immediately know and I just lock in and here's how I clean their spine. Basically, that's where they have the attachments at. Like not on their physical spine, but in that vicinity in the spiritual realm is I draw a three-dimensional triangle with a square base, and then I flip it so there's two of them, and then they spin in opposing directions. And some people call it a Merkaba, but that first appeared to me a couple of years ago. I'll create that, and then I run it up and down their spine to disconnect whatever entities are there. And I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about that. And then what I do is I just expand my energy to encompass everyone. Whereas like I'm putting a sphere of protection over all of them and cleaning them. Because now that we're in the age of Aquarius, those entities are like phasing out. They can't exist in that realm. So it's like there's a shadow there still trying to have control and drain their energy and work evil through them, but it's like phasing out. It's going away. So like I just gave it the last bump of disintegration, basically. It's like just gone. Have you ever heard of servitors in high magic, where you can create a servitor? Well, a lot of dark entities were created through servitor work, but they were created wrongly for the wrong purposes. And so many dark entities um, were created through dark craft work, and they just went amok on such a large scale. And now the universe is resetting the balance there.
Yeah, I do get it because the
It's
Merkaba is basically like a transport mechanism. So it's a little bit like a plane. You get into the plane and then you're transported somewhere. And the Merkaba can basically take a 4D entity and carry it somewhere else. So it's basically like putting it into a little container and then removing it. So that's how I understand what you said. As we only have 4 minutes left, is there something that if the entire world could hear this interview now, that you would like to tell the entire world, something that is really on your heart and needs to get out? Is there anything you want to say?
we're entering a new dawn of humanity, and mass healing is on the way. The next generations are going to experience a earth that we can't even imagine of peace and harmony.
Fantastic. Amen to that. So I'm gonna say thank you for now. Thank you for this wonderful interview. I absolutely enjoyed and appreciated this because you're the first one who talked openly about these things. Many people are restricted because they are afraid of talking about it. So I'm very thankful for that, and thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. And thank you for giving me space to share that.